Alright guys, so the time has come. We are ready to process the beef fat that we got from our cow that we recently purchased. And so this is bag 1 of 4. We have a ton to go through, about 45 pounds. We have our beef fat. It looks like the majority of this is leaf lard, so that should, pardon me, suet, and so that should make some really good jarred up tallow for us. I think I'm gonna freeze it, or put it right back onto a cookie sheet into the freezer. See, it's got like this. It just peels right off. It's so weird. See, they have these little spots in them. I think they're like glands or something. It happened in the last one I got as well. Kind of weirded me out the first time I did this. And I think, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but one of these days I'm gonna figure it out. If any of you know what this is, leave it in the comments below. I'm pretty sure it's gland. I'm not worried about it. But I do cut them out. And when you're doing all this, you definitely want to make sure you're starting with a sharp knife. Otherwise it can be a huge pain in the butt. And so I'm just trying to cut these up into pieces that are small enough to fit into my meat grinder. And then I'm going to refreeze it because my meat grinder, I've discovered, works so much better with frozen solid meat or fat that I'm throwing in there. It's just not even a comparison. It's so much easier. And I'm spreading these out on the cookie sheet so that they will freeze without freezing into one giant glob. And when it's convenient, I get that little film thing off, but when it's not, I just don't worry about it because it's just going to be left behind in the crock pot, so I'm not going to worry about it a whole lot. And this is the fat that was around the kidneys, so you can see there's like blood flow on different arteries and all that fun stuff that you get with real food. So you can see that this type of fat is much different than the kind of fat that you find on meat. This fat is like, I don't know, it's very dense, and my knife's pretty sharp, I don't want to cut into myself. It's just like a rock, but it melts in your hands as you're working with it. It's so hard to describe the difference between this, but there's a definite difference. If you ever come across this kind of thing, you will definitely notice the difference, both when you're processing it as well as when you're actually consuming it. It's a huge difference. This stuff is much more, it comes out harder, and it comes out more, just less flavor and less, yeah, it's just more neutral. And so you can use it in baking and all sorts of different things. I tend to use all of the rendered fats that I have pretty interchangeably, regardless of what kind of protein that I'm actually cooking with. I don't really worry a whole lot about it. It's almost like gum, like when you blow a bubble. It just comes out in like these little pucks, all different sizes. whereas the body fat tends to be more layered. This is more just a bunch of little circles, I guess, just kind of bunched together. So I think I've reached maximum capacity on what I can freeze in a single batch. So I'm going to go ahead and throw all of these into the freezer. All right, so now that the suet has had a chance to freeze all the way through, now we're just going to run it through the meat grinder and throw it in the crock pot. So now that we have the first sheet pan already ground up here, I'm going to go ahead and toss this little bit since they are frozen and it is a crock pot. I don't want to crack it. So I'm going to try and let it just kind of warm up slowly and add each sheet pan one by one. And hopefully that will make it so that it does not crack. And I'm not going to crank the heat up too much. I'm just going to do power here. I'm just going to do it on low and see from there what we need to do. So just a couple of side notes. If you haven't seen my rendering lard video that I did, where I kind of figured out a bit of how to do this whole lard process, at least the one that I'm showing you here, this particular meat grinder that I have in the center here, it like eventually starts to swirl out like this aluminum. Let me get my piece out over here. It's like this aluminum colored fat, and it just comes out the center. And so I just like to scoop that out because I don't want that in my food. And then I've also found that the meat grinder itself works much better with totally frozen solid fat. And also just cut in like little strips, you know, and then you want to put it into the meat grinder pointy side down, and it kind of just helps the auger to suck it in. So just a couple of side notes there. Great. Starting to warm up a little bit in here, so I'm going to go ahead and dump this one in there too. It's going to shrink down so much inside here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's pretty full. Some banging going on in there. All right, I'm gonna go and wash my hands, and then I will bring you in close and show you the crock pot and everything that's going on in there. So you can see, this is the before I add in the last bucket of the fat here. And the last one that I added in, I brought it up to about here. Oops, I brought it up to about here. And then it shrank down, and that was maybe 5 minutes ago, maybe 10 at the most. And it just shrinks down very, very quickly. So I'm gonna dump this last bucket in, and I'll show you what we have. That is our pile of tallow. I think on the next batch, I'm gonna go ahead and do only 4 sheet pans in the freezer instead of 5, just to make sure I don't get that mound going on there. And so I'm gonna let this cook. It is currently 8:57 p.m. And so I will let you know how long this takes until we get to the next step. I'll bring you along when this really starts to render down so you can see just how much volume actually ends up in there. Probably about, I'd say, half an hour from now. Since I can't put the lid on, it's probably gonna take a little longer than it would otherwise. So I'll bring you back then. It is 11:14 and this stuff has been done. Well, I turned it off about 5 minutes ago, but it's been done for probably a half hour, probably 45 minutes. And you can see it's all melted. I had just stirred it a second ago. There was just a layer of this particles on top. And this is fully done. It's fully rendered. And the nice part about rendering suet is that all you're doing is melting it. It is so much quicker. Like, you don't have to cook it, and for whatever reason, it's just, I find it to be much quicker than just the actual like back fat or beef fat or anything like that. It takes a lot less time and you have a lot less waste to it. So, all right, so we have our tallow. It's all nice and hot. So we're gonna ladle it into our sanitized jars and put them on the shelf. I'm going to use clean, fresh, new canning lids for these, and then strain them out really, really well, and then just put them on the pantry shelf. The way that I prefer to filter out the fat, any kind of fat, is through a coffee filter. I think that works the best, and I've just put that on top of one of these little strainers and a canning funnel. And if the fat is hot enough, it will go through this coffee filter. If it's not hot enough, then I'm going to switch it over to a muslin cloth. So let's get started. So you want to make sure you treat it like any other canning thing that you're doing. And you're going to wipe the rim with some vinegar water. Fresh, clean lid, throw it on here. And if the fat is hot enough, it will suck down and form a vacuum. See, the nice part about using coffee filters is that you don't have to rinse it. I'm just going to use a new one. Starting to cool off, so I'm going to turn the crock pot back on. Probably should have left it on to make sure they stay hot. And you can see right here all the settlement that's at the bottom. Can you see that? Yeah. All the settlement that is at the bottom, I'm trying my best not to disturb that until I'm at the very, very end, so that I don't have to have that clog up my coffee filter. Alright, so we have reached the end, and it is time . It's time to switch over and get all this sediment in from out of here. But I want to make sure that it's all still filtered really well through the coffee filter. So all I'm going to do is just get all of this stuff out. See? So doing this does take a little bit more time when it's going to run through the filter, because this jar is going to cool off the fat a bit, but it does take less time than trying to get all of this goop and leftover bits out of the crock pot. So that's how we do it. And so I just wanted to show you how much, after that huge crock pot that was completely overflowed, gigantically full, this is all the sediment that is left. Everything else is fat. And that's what you get when you do suet instead of just the beef, like the body fat or whatever. This is all that's left. And this is probably just the valves and any leftover meat particles that might have been in there. That's about all that's left when you're cooking with suet. So the muslin cloth is nice because it does filter through much quicker than the coffee filter. And you can filter it out when it's a little bit colder than you could with the coffee filter. But the downside to it is that it doesn't catch every little particle, and so you can end up with a little bit of sediment in the bottom of the jar. These are some of my lard that I have. I don't know if I can show a camera well enough, but you can see on the bottom of this one, there's no sediment. And then on the bottom of this one, you can see, let's see if I can get an angle. You can kind of see the sediment that's at the bottom. So you're gonna get more of a pure fat if you actually run it through the coffee filter. You just get better results. But it works either way. But I like when I'm gonna actually store it in my pantry, I like to make sure that it's as clean and pure as I possibly can within any form of reason, I guess. So in the past, I've been pretty surprised at some of the temperatures of the fat that have actually formed a vacuum over time. So this one is a little bit cooler going into the jar. So this one and this one I'm gonna be extra, well, all of them I'm gonna make sure that it actually forms the vacuum on it, but I'm gonna be extra cautious with these two just to make sure to keep an extra eye on them to make sure that they do actually form the seal. And if they don't, then I just pop them in the freezer. From everything that I've read, like it doesn't really matter if it has a seal because I mean, when you have fat, you have it in the big giant tubs if you buy them at like Costco or Cash and Carry or whatever. And those ones are just open and exposed and it's not really an issue. So I don't anticipate it being a problem, but I like to make sure they're extra well taken care of. Because animal fats are definitely very prized in my world, so I like to make sure it's as good as possible. What did I just do? Okay. So right now you can see they're just a nice like melted butter looking. They will lighten up pretty significantly and possibly turn white. It kind of depends. I know with lard, I don't know, but in my experience with lard, it just solidifies white kind of no matter what. But from what I've seen and experienced, oftentimes with the tallow, if it's the suet, it will render and solidify kind of more with more of a yellow hue, kind of like butter. So we'll see how it goes and I will let you know what we end up with. So last night I just finished the last batch of the tallow. There's still a little bit over there on the counter and it is just cooling off and I'm getting ready to take care of that. So we ended up with these beautiful yellow jars of tallow. We ended up getting 43 jars of this amazing, beautiful stuff. And so I wanted to kind of figure out just how much this would cost if I ended up actually purchasing it in the store, which I probably wouldn't do. But I looked on Amazon and they have tallow on there. The cheapest one that I could find that was grass-fed was 11 ounces for $10.99. And if I calculate these at, I mean, there's probably like between 14 and 15 ounces actually in the jars. And so I just calculated on the low end and did it at 14 ounces in each jar. And if I times that out, it equals $601.45 worth of tallow. So this is definitely a project that is worth doing if you have the ability to do it. And so, one little tip that I didn't get a chance to share in the video because I figured it out later on in the process. One thing that helps the filtering process go a little bit smoother is that, you know, skimming off the top as much as you can get before you actually start to pour it off into the coffee filter. And one other thing that if you do is if you can, you just kind of double fist it and hold one of the, I don't know what you'd call those, but the handheld strainers. If you hold one above it and underneath the coffee filter below it, and that'll get all of the bigger chunks, and then just the coffee filter is going to have to filter out the smaller chunks. So, or you could do it ahead of time, but I just like to keep it as hot as possible. So I just like to go straight into the jar so to make sure that it will create a seal. And so we did end up actually putting these into the freezer, and I'm gonna go ahead and put in a shot of that here. So you can see all the jars that we ended up with. They are all just this beautiful yellow color, and they are delicious. So I'm very excited. This is, like I said, this is probably about probably about 2 years worth of tallow for us, because we also have lard and, you know, other things like butter and ghee and all that kind of stuff. So, but mostly we have tallow and then lard. But super excited about that, excited that we have it for the future. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you found benefit from it. If you learned anything or if you just enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I very much look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.